Hi everyone, this is Shiloh from GlasWeld. Thank you again for joining us for another video here in Resin Awareness Month, where we're going to dig into some of the technical stuff on windshield repair resin, why it matters. And today's video is going to focus on weather testing and durability testing. And what are some of the tests that we do here, both internally as well as at independent labs, to make sure that the products that you buy from GlasWeld are performing to the highest level. Also, just want to mention to you to stay tuned to all of the Resin Awareness Month information that we're putting out there. We had a video earlier this month on resin strength testing and the 4 or 5 tests that we do there as well, so make sure you check that one out if you haven't seen that yet. But today we're going to discuss again that long-term weather testing. The first question is, why does it matter, right? Why do you care? It's important because it shows the durability of the resin. Let's say you go out and you do a repair and it looks great. But what does it look like in 6 months? What does it look like in a year? What does it look like in 5 years? And that all matters to everyone who does repairs, because at the end of the day, customer satisfaction, both initially as well as long term, really matters. It affects your reviews, it affects customer retention, it affects retaining big accounts. So it really makes a big difference. It's always cheaper to keep your own customers that you already have and bring them back than to find new customers. So the durability of the products you use directly correlates to your customers not just being happy on day 1, but staying happy on day 90 and on 5 years down the road and coming back to you. So let's talk about the different tests that we do here at GlasWeld, and we're going to break down some of the details about that. Now, there's a lot more to this topic that we can't cover in a brief video for a few minutes, but we hope this will give you some information that will help you to differentiate yourself in the market and understand that not all resin is the same, that we do a lot to make sure that the products that we put out there are reaching the highest standards. So the first thing is what we call accelerated weather testing. Now, I'm in one of our little labs. We have another space where we have what's called a UV and humidity chamber. We've actually had one of those down in our warehouse for probably 25 years, and we actually have a brand new one. So what that does is it simulates ultraviolet light exposure, so sunlight and moisture. In a couple of months, we can simulate years, so we can see what constant exposure to the elements does to the resin. Now, here's why that matters. One of the tests that we did, this is just an example of one of our competitors' products, and you can see on this sheet of paper that these resins do not look very good after only a couple of months of exposure. You get chalking, cracking, yellowing. All of that matters in whether your customers are happy, not just on the day that you do the repair, but down the road and whether they come back to you. Not to mention too, if your repairs start to yellow, that becomes a distraction to the driver, and it's no longer really a safe repair. So we're going to talk about the different tests that we do that are correlated to accelerated weather testing. Now, the SGS independent lab tests that we did, also we tested for a handful of things that I'm going to talk to you about today. So in addition to doing the internal and external testing in the accelerated weathering machine, we do what's called luminous transmittant tests or light stability tests. And basically what that looks at is so first off, luminous transmittant has to do with how much light transfers through the glass and whether that's consistent before and after the repair. So that's one important one. And then the light stability test looks at, now over a period of time, does that stay the same? Does the light still transfer through the glass at the same rate, at the same percentages, or close to it, 90 days down the road or several years down the road? That correlates to whether your repairs are going to chalk or yellow, because obviously they would fail that test if that was the case. So luminous transmittance and light stability are 2 of the long-term weathering tests that we do. Now, another one is just a straight humidity test. Now, this one involves keeping the glass in a container, basically in a really humid, wet environment without UV exposure, but at a high temperature for a long period of time. So we're just looking at, largely with that, what that's testing for is shrinkage, whether the material will pull away with long-term moisture exposure from like the outer shell of the repair. And for those of you who live in places like Florida, Brazil, Latin America, places where you get a lot of rain, that test really comes into play because it's testing how that resin is going to perform with a lot of humidity exposure. So another test we do is called the boil test. Now, this is really just to test extreme conditions, extreme heat, And so what actually happens in that test, according to the independent lab test, is they take the sample, they put it in 150-degree water for about 3 minutes, and then they put it in a boiling pot for 2 hours. And then they pull the specimen out and they look at how the specimen performs. So that's gonna especially apply to people who live in extreme climates, like maybe certain parts of Arizona, Nevada, the Middle East, places like that where we get really high extreme temperatures over an extended period of time. So those are just some examples of some of the long-term durability tests that we do both internally as well as in independent labs to make sure that the resin that you're using from GlasWeld doesn't just look great the day you do the repair, but it's gonna look great, you know, almost regardless of the extreme conditions that your customers are facing and the environment that they're working in. So they give you a lot of peace of mind when you go to do the repair, that the repair is gonna look good, not just today, but 90 days down the road and 5 years down the road as well. Thank you so much for tuning in and geeking out with me a little bit, nerding out on all this technical stuff on windshield repair resin. Again, stay tuned to the other videos for Resin Awareness Month. Check out the other ones that we've filmed already and published recently, both on the optical properties and hiding repairs, as well as the resin strength testing ones, as well as any of the other content we have on our social media channels. We look forward to seeing you on the next video.